Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Can I just start by thanking Paul and all his colleagues for the support that they are providing to this effort. I have just come from chairing the 6th Strategic Coordinating Group, which encompasses all senior partners, not just the emergency services within the island. A large and powerful group, all dedicated to resolving this matter carefully and sensitively. As has already been identified by the Chief Minister, we have moved to the recovery phase. It is a time to just think briefly about the families. We have deployed family liaison officers to those families, but it's vitally important that we are sensitive to their thoughts, considerations, emotions, as we now begin what is going to be a meticulous and painstaking search of the debris left following the explosion. So in terms of the forward look, we have now very specialist staff, not only in States of Jersey Police, but also supported by colleagues in the UK to start carefully identifying bodies when and if we find them. That will take time. So it's important that I am here to manage people's expectations, particularly on behalf of the family. We are not going to be here for days. We are likely to be here for weeks, and it's important that I make that clear. This morning I spoke to the Family Liaison Coordinator who described to me the feelings of those families, and I am really, really keen to ensure that everybody properly understands the emotions that they are currently going through. So this is not going to happen quickly, it's going to happen carefully, and it's going to happen sensitively. Yes, an investigation or investigations are starting, that's inevitable, as you would expect. We deal with the very, very unusual in the usual way. We will want to understand how this has happened, and we are working and participating with all the services, including health and safety, to understand how this has occurred. I would just like to finish on two things. We have enormous amounts of effort coming from various different agencies, and I just want to put out a special thank you to our honorary police colleagues throughout the island who are working so hard, particularly overnight, to keep the cordons there in freezing cold and wet weather. Altogether, including the emergency services, we had 50 staff deployed last night who continued with the search, but also keeping islanders safe around the cordon. My second point is, again, and this is a point for islanders, is we have enough capacity indeed. We are able to deal with any other eventualities, so policing will continue as usual, despite the fact that we are dealing with a major incident. Thank you.
Thank you all, and our continued thoughts are with the family of all of those involved, as my colleagues have already alluded to. The ambulance service continue to support the search efforts, and we will continue to do so as long as that is needed to ensure the safety of all those on scene. Our hazardous area response team colleagues that arrived yesterday from the United Kingdom, originally from South West Ambulance Service Trust and then from West Midlands Ambulance Service Trust later in the day, have been a welcome asset to support our teams on scene and our commanders dealing with the incident, and working very closely with our colleagues in fire and rescue and the police service to ensure the safety of all those on scene, and that the rescue efforts continue to be supported, as I've said. We are reviewing those arrangements on a regular basis, and we'll aim to keep them in place as long as we can, or need to. The ambulance service and the health service continue to operate as a business as usual alongside the response to the incident. We do have minimal of our own resources on scene now in that command effort to ensure business continuity and that we can manage any incidents on island. My sincere thanks go to all my staff, volunteers and partner agencies for their efforts to date and their continuing efforts to support the ongoing incident. Thank you.
We've come to the point where we've concluded our prepared statements. What we'd like to do now is invite questions from the media. We will, of course, be asking questions both from the people in the room, but I understand that we also have questions from people who are joining online, and I'm going to be helped and prompted, I think, to know when the time is to do that. When I ask for you to ask your question, please could you let me know who you are, who you represent, and who your question is for? Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, please.
Dan Johnson from BBC News. Could we just try and get clear the figures of how many people are missing, how many bodies you have, how many more people you are searching for?
I think that's probably one best fielded by the Chief Officer of Police.
OK, we can come back to that.
OK.
Let me ask you about the fire service response to that block of flats on Friday night. What
Yes.
more can you tell us about that action?
You'll understand. At the moment, I am not able to add and will not add to the answer I gave yesterday. But what you can absolutely have is a guarantee from me, my personal commitment to you, that we will be absolutely honest and transparent, and we will completely provide every item of information that is required, because our most important priority now is to make sure that we understand exactly what happened, exactly why it happened.
Do you accept something must have gone wrong?
Not at this stage. Well, something clearly has gone wrong because a building has exploded and collapsed, and horribly wrong as well. But at the moment, because we are at the phase that we are at, my focus and the focus of all my colleagues at the moment is on the thing that we are doing right now. But in terms of an open and transparent, we will cooperate fully and openly and transparently with every phase that happens.
How much faith can people here have in the emergency services when they've had a suspicion about gas, they've made that call, they've had somebody out, but still lives have been lost?
Yes, of course. It is a tragic situation. And we're all devastated that islanders have been lost and that families and loved ones are suffering today and will continue to do so with our full support. But they will still suffer, and we understand that. It's awful. But islanders can have confidence in their emergency services. Islanders can have confidence in the States of Jersey Fire and Rescue Service.
What assurance will you give those families who will want to know how this happened and if it could have been prevented?
And I think the answer is in your question, actually, if you don't mind. I think that what those families deserve and what those families will absolutely receive is openness and transparency from me on behalf of my organisation every step of the way.
Thank you.
Phil Welbrick from ITV News. Just a question to the Chief of Police. As the operation has now changed from a rescue to recovery, is the assumption, sadly, that those people who were counted as missing have lost their lives?
As the Fire Chief has indicated, we brought over a number of specialist assets yesterday and yesterday afternoon, some of which came in Chinooks, thanks to the support of the military, to bring in not only those specialist assets, but also sniffer dogs and the like, to give us the confidence that we need that we have now moved into the recovery phase. So inevitably and tragically and sadly, that is the case.
As was alluded to just now, do we have any idea on numbers?
You'll appreciate this. This is a very sensitive area, and of course it's very, very difficult to be precise. The one area I can be precise on is that we have 3 confirmed fatalities. And I think it is fair to say that we expect to find more. Previously, we've said probably in the region of a dozen, but you will understand how difficult it is to make that assessment. But that's a number we hope we don't get to, but that's the number we are just sort of working to.
How has the force got on in terms of contacting next of kin?
Yes, we're confident that we've contacted the next of kin via our family liaison officers. And of course, government very helpfully brought in a helpline, which has aided that communication as well.
And finally, just a question to the Chief Minister, if I may, on the response from the island in terms of coming together and people providing support and shops being open as well, providing clothes and food as well.
Thank you. Well, as you know, we're a very small but strong community, and the public effort has been quite extraordinary. We've been overwhelmed by people wishing to help in both practical and financial ways. We have put on a call centre today and yesterday so that we can help to coordinate that and identify any assistance that we can. And in particular, through discussions with the bailiff's chambers, the bailiff has kindly agreed to set up a fund that will be a collection point for monies that can be used to support people who've been displaced, and also to help us respond to the other tragic incidents that we've experienced amongst us this week, and that was the loss of a trawler earlier in the week. So I think that will help us greatly as we move forward and come together as a community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's Julian Morrell here from Bailiwick Express and the Jersey Evening Post. Could I please ask the Chief Officer, could you give some more details, if at all possible, just perhaps on the ages or the genders of those who've lost their lives?
Julian, you'll understand that I'm not yet in a position to do that, but my commitment is in future events like this, I'll be able to provide more information when that information is known.
Thank you. To the Chief Fire Officer, could you please just paint a picture of the scene last night and of the search operation, and what prompted you to move from that search and rescue to that recovery phase?
Yeah, thank you. I've no doubt that you will have seen the footage of the initial explosion captured on camera. And so from that, you'll already have a picture in your mind, I think, of the level of destruction of the site. Of course, an event like that clearly causes an awful lot of physical destruction in terms of percussive destruction, things moving, things being hit, but also, the collapse and fires. And so there was a great deal to do for the first arriving fire crews in order to address the immediate and most pressing hazards as they faced them, so that they could go about their business in further stages, if you like, but also, of course, trying to evacuate and facilitate an evacuation as well to stop a very, very bad situation from becoming worse as much as they possibly could in those early moments. Coupled to that, an explosion, an incident of that magnitude for an island of our size was inevitably going to require mutual aid. That's been a planning assumption for many years. I've been around long enough to have seen and experienced a mutual aid protocol being used in the 1990s as well. So, we understand when these situations arise that one of the early things we need to do is make sure that we get the support that is needed, but is also, I think it's really important to stress, the support that is offered. The response from my colleagues, and I know that this is the case for the other emergency services as well, but the response from my colleagues nationally, as well as specifically in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service, has been nothing short of energetic, positive, timely.
And would you just be able to tell me a little bit more about the cordon and how that area of town will be, how it will be going forward?
I think that, because we've moved into the phase that we've moved into now, it has gone from a scene which is effectively, in terms of safety, managed by the Fire and Rescue Service, to a scene which is being managed by the police service, because of course we've moved from a search and rescue phase into a search phase. Therefore, I don't know what will happen to the further and outer cordons. The inner cordon remains around the most hazardous site. That's and of course within that inner cordon there are zones of operation, but they are concentrated around the site, and of course then concentrically they move away from that site.
And finally, to the police chief, would you be able to tell me exactly how many people are being accommodated elsewhere and what the plan is for them, and can the community do more to support?
First of all, I think it's in the region of 40, but I'll check on that number. Similar to the Chief Minister, I am personally overwhelmed by the amount of support that has been provided. I've even received personal texts from hotel managers, other residents who wanted to give up their rooms. I think that is absolutely typical of the community that we're in. I am very confident, and that this issue is raised every time at the strategic coordinating group meetings, is about how those people who have had to leave buildings nearby are being accommodated. They have all been accommodated, and the island effort is remarkable, frankly.
Good afternoon, Ashna Harinag from Sky News. Please can you give us an idea of what time, either last night or this morning, you made the call to go from a search and rescue operation to a recovery one? What led to that assessment? Was it thermal imaging? Please could you tell us
Understand,
about that?
yeah, thank you. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly. Obviously we have a log of all of the timings. But I know that the incident happened at around about 4 o'clock. I think that I was contacted at around about 4:30. And I know that it was around about that time that we knew, and the decision locally was made that we needed to invoke those processes. It was a very early morning call with colleagues in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service. I was on that call. And then, of course, that process sort of evolved very quickly into a formal request, which was accepted immediately by Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service. I can't remember at the moment exactly what time that was, but it was extremely early in the event. The reason that we did it, much like the answer I gave earlier on, actually, is just looking at the size and scale of the scene and of the destruction and a professional assessment of the challenge ahead, with a very long-standing assessment and understanding of the size and capability of the Fire and Rescue Service in Jersey, a brilliant Fire and Rescue Service, but of course it's a small Fire and Rescue Service for a small jurisdiction. So it was very obvious, and that's why we've had those assistance agreements and mutual aid protocols in place for a long, long time.